Chapter 22. Things Fall Apart. Kahiri led them on a roundabout route down narrow alleyways and through high grass that made their skin itchy and murky, ankle-deep water that made their sandals ooze and squish. The moment they were close enough to the inlet where they had all met, the snakes twisted, launched themselves like springs out of the children's hands, and made off, spitting out a litany of insults as they slithered away. Gutless, simpletons, imbeciles. They were far upstream from where they had met Kahiri. Here the water ranged from knee to shoulder high. As the five of them waded through, the rocks at the bottom bruised their ankles, and their wet clothes and shoes chafed their skin. Kahiri kept opening and closing his mouth as though something was on his mind until Corinne finally snapped. "What?" "You are not the goddess," he said slowly. "No," Corinne whispered. "You are a crook, then, like all the others who have tried to get Ma Desilee's stone." "It's not hers," Drew said. "We didn't lie about that." Without looking at her, Kahiri said, "It is if the goddess left it to her." Corinne stopped in a waist-deep spot. "We were sent to get it," she said. "From across the sea. The mermaids brought us. They're her mermaids, not ours. We didn't even know about them before yesterday. But it's not Ma Desilee's stone, and if we don't get it back, people are going to be hurt." "People here will be hurt if you take it," Kahiri said. Corinne shook her head. "Children have been taken. Mami Wata won't help us find them unless we bring the stone back." "That doesn't sound like the goddess," Kahiri said. "People change," Buki said dryly. "Even goddesses." "How?" Kahiri asked. Corinne took a breath. She told him about Severine, the White Witch, the night on the cliff, the orange trees she planted, the earthquake, the missing children, and Mama Jolo. "I don't know if it's the same goddess," Kahiri said. "Mami Wata is helpful. Your Mama Jolo doesn't sound very nice." "How else would she know about the stone?" Drew asked. "Many people have heard about the stone," Kahiri said. "Many people have done all kinds of things to try to get it." "People who can command mermaids?" Corinne asked. Kahiri looked like he was working a thought on his tongue, rolling it around and tasting it. But finally he swallowed and said nothing. "You believe us, don't you?" Drew asked. "I will try to find out about the mermaids' families," Kahiri said. "But I can't help any more with the stone. You will have to figure that out on your own." Corinne collapsed on the soft, silty ground, took off her sandals so she could wash her feet and her shoes could dry out. Everyone else did the same. "Terrific," Buki said. "How are we going to do that?" Corinne lay back with her hair spread out around her and squinted up at the sun. "No idea," she said. "Whatever you do, you can't do it here," Kahiri said. "Ma Desilee is here, and she is angrier than I've ever seen her." All five of them scrambled to the top of the bank and watched the commotion on the street. Ma Desilee and Kahiri's mother were in a heated argument, and they had attracted a crowd. "She's looking for Hugh," Kahiri said. Buki turned to Corinne. "What now, goddess?" "If she's here, it means that she isn't at the house to stop us," Corinne said. "We already looked there," Kahiri said. "She probably has the place locked up tight." "If we only had a little more time, we could search properly," Corinne said. Drew shook her head. "It's not right. Even if the stone isn't hers, it's not right to break into someone's house and go through their things." She paused. "I mean, a second time." "But if we don't, what will happen to Laurent or Marlene?" Corinne asked. While they argued over what to do, Malik pulled at Corinne's clothes and poked her in the arm and waved his hands in front of her face. "What, Malik?" Corinne yelled. "Sometimes I wish you would just talk. You can do it. I've heard you." Malik froze, and the excitement drained from his face. Drew and Buki pulled him closer. Corinne knew she should say she was sorry, but she clenched her jaw tight and scanned the crowd again. "It's time for me to go," Kahiri said. "I'll go up the river so they won't look for you here. But it's not safe. You'll have to find somewhere else to hide." "Where?" Drew asked. Kahiri pointed to the large sand-colored fort. "Go to the castle," he said. "There are plenty of rooms to hide in, and nobody stays there after dark." "How long is it going to take for you to find out about the mermaids' families?" Drew asked. Kahiri shrugged. They've been gone a long, long time. He walked away. You three go to the castle and wait, Corinne said. You're not doing this alone, said Drew. We came too, because of you. Her words were sharp, but she looked down at the ground when she said them. What if they've already been found, Buki said. What if all of this is for nothing? And what if they haven't, Drew argued. If we go back empty-handed, it really will have been for nothing. Corinne shook her head. And Jumbie wouldn't give them up so easily, she said. What does Mama Jalou want with them anyway? Drew asked. She has the mermaids. She picked at the ends of her hair, frowned at the strands in her fingers, then tucked them behind her ears. Why do you think it's her? Corinne asked. Who else would it be? Buki argued. You're defending a Jumbie? Asked Drew. Corinne folded her arms across her chest. What's wrong with defending a Jumbie? I'm one. Well, not exactly, Drew said. You're a Jumbie, Corinne said flatly. Just like Mama Jalou. Just like Severine. Don't say her name, Buki said with a shudder. She's gone. She doesn't matter anymore. Maybe she does, Corinne said. We all know it was a water Jumbie who was taking the children, Buki said. They all went missing by the water. You heard one of them sing. What kind of Jumbies sing, Corinne? I bet this whole thing is a game for Mama Jalou. Maybe Laurent and the others are in some other part of the world, too. This could be how she has her fun, Corinne. Does that sound like a Jumbie thing to do? There was a sharpness in Buki's jaw and an arch in his eyebrows that unsettled Corinne. Her friends had never looked at her this way before. It's very strange, Drew said. Everything Jumbies do is strange. Seeing in the dark, talking to snakes. Buki gestured wildly, and Corinne's hands closed into fists. The next moment, Corinne had been knocked back. Both Corinne and Buki fell in the sand and slid down the bank. Malik stood over both of them. His head was lowered, and his chest heaved. He drew a finger up slowly and pressed it to his lips. Then he pointed toward the vendors. Corinne and Buki crawled up to see what he was pointing at. Kahiri was there, getting yelled at by his mother, while Ma Dessely stood over him, making him shrink like a wilting plant. As soon as Kahiri stopped talking, Ma Dessely motioned with her thick arms, and two men joined her. She pointed in different directions, and the men moved off, looking into and under stalls, behind crates, and up into trees. A search party, Corinne said. Without another word, they returned to the water and made a quick route back to the sea. In minutes, they were in deep enough water to dive under the waves and swim for the castle. They resurfaced only for sips of air until they came to a jetty of slippery rocks that led to a series of broken, weather-worn, splintery stairs on the other side of the beach. Above them was the castle.